I never imagined that an ordinary Tuesday afternoon at a Seattle coffee shop would fundamentally alter my understanding of parenting, compassion, and the profound impact one moment of courage can have on multiple lives. My name is Michael Chen. I'm a 32-year-old software engineer working for one of the major tech companies in the Pacific Northwest. And what I witnessed that day taught me more about humanity than any corporate training or leadership seminar ever could. This story begins with a painful incident I observed as a bystander, but it ends in a way that transformed not just one family, but an entire community's approach to what truly matters in life. It was a Tuesday in late September, around 4:30 in the afternoon. I had just finished a client meeting downtown and decided to stop by my favorite coffee shop on Pike Street, a cozy place called The Daily Grind, known for their exceptional apple cider and comfortable atmosphere. The shop was moderately busy with the usual afternoon crowd, a few remote workers on laptops, a couple of college students studying, an elderly gentleman reading the newspaper, and a young mother gently rocking a stroller. I ordered my usual Americano and settled into a corner table near the window, planning to catch up on emails before heading home to my wife and 2 daughters. If you want to discover real stories about human relationships that could change how you think about parenting and respect, subscribe to this channel right now because we share authentic experiences showing how small moments can have massive consequences. And if this content already seems valuable to you, leave your like so more people can find these important life lessons. That's when a man entered with a boy who appeared to be about 10 years old. The father was tall, well-dressed in an expensive business suit, looking every bit the successful executive or high-level professional. He had a stern expression even before anything happened, the kind of face that suggests someone perpetually stressed and impatient. The boy was small for his age, with dark curly hair and large hazel eyes that seemed too serious for a child. He wore a school uniform and carried a backpack that looked too heavy for his slight frame. They took a table just 6 feet from mine. The boy immediately started talking with genuine excitement, his words tumbling out in that enthusiastic way children have when they're bursting to share something important. I couldn't hear every word clearly, but his tone conveyed pure joy and pride. He was gesturing animatedly with his hands, his eyes sparkling as he obviously tried to tell his father about something significant that had happened at school. The father didn't even glance at him, instead staring intently at his smartphone screen, scrolling with an expression of growing irritation. "Dad, are you listening? It was amazing. Mr. Patterson said my solar system project was the best in the entire class, and I got to present it to the 5th graders too, and..." The boy continued his story, his voice rising slightly in volume, trying desperately to capture his father's attention. The man still didn't look up. A barista approached to take their order, but the father waved her away impatiently, indicating he needed another minute. Write in the comments, "Respect," if you believe parents should always listen to their children. Your engagement helps me create better content about family relationships. The boy tried again, and I got an A+, which hardly anyone gets. And Sarah only got an A-, even though her project was really good too. But the teacher said mine had more accurate details about the planetary orbits and then it happened. The father suddenly slammed his hand on the table with such force that his phone bounced and the salt shaker toppled over. Several people in the coffee shop turned their heads. His face flushed red with frustration and anger. "Would you just shut up already?" the father snapped, his voice sharp and cold enough to cut glass. "Can't you see I'm trying to work? I don't care about your stupid project or your school or whatever pointless thing you're babbling about. I have actual important business to handle, and you're sitting here yammering about planets like a 5-year-old. Sit there quietly and don't bother me again, or we're going straight home and you'll spend the evening in your room without dinner or screen time. Do you understand me?" The silence that followed was deafening. The boy froze completely, his eyes widening with shock and hurt. His lower lip trembled slightly, but he was clearly fighting hard not to cry. Slowly he closed his mouth, dropped his gaze to the table and started fidgeting with the edge of a napkin. All the light in his eyes extinguished in a single moment. The transformation from excited child to small, frightened boy happened in one cruel sentence. I sat there absolutely stunned by what I'd just witnessed. I wasn't the only one who noticed. The barista had stopped mid-step, her face showing clear compassion and distress. The elderly gentleman at the next table shook his head in obvious disapproval. The young mother instinctively pulled her baby closer, as if protecting her child from witnessing such harshness. But nobody said anything. In American culture, despite our values of speaking up, Intervening in other people's family matters is still considered inappropriate by many. So we all returned to our business, though the atmosphere in the coffee shop had distinctly changed, become heavier. The father ordered a black coffee for himself and a hot chocolate for the boy without asking what he wanted. For the next 20 minutes he sat completely absorbed in his phone, typing emails or messages, entirely ignoring his son's presence. The boy sat motionless, staring at his untouched hot chocolate, occasionally glancing at his father with an expression of hope that maybe he would look up, say something kind. But nothing like that happened. The child just sat there in silence, his earlier excitement completely crushed, looking smaller and more defeated with each passing minute. If this detailed story about family relationships seems valuable to you or someone you know, click subscribe and turn on notifications. This isn't entertainment. These are lessons that could literally change how we treat the people closest to us. And leave your like to ensure this crucial information reaches others who need it. Just then, the coffee shop door opened and a man walked in, whom I immediately recognized. It was David Morrison, the CEO of the company where I worked. He was a respected figure throughout the entire tech industry in Seattle, known not just for his business achievements but for his mentorship programs and commitment to work-life balance advocacy. He was about 55 years old, with silver gray hair, warm eyes, and a reputation for treating every employee with respect, regardless of their position in the company hierarchy. Mr. Morrison stood in line to order when his gaze fell on the scene at the table near me. He observed the father staring at his phone and the small boy sitting in silence with his head down. Something in his expression changed. I saw recognition, perhaps a personal memory, maybe just deep empathy. He ordered his coffee, but instead of finding a seat, he walked directly over to the table where the father and son sat. "Excuse me, may I interrupt for just a moment?" Mr. Morrison said politely, his voice friendly but firm. The father looked up from his phone with an expression of annoyance, clearly irritated by yet another interruption to his important work. "Yes?" he responded coldly, his tone suggesting that whatever this was, it better be important. Mr. Morrison smiled calmly and gestured toward the boy. "I couldn't help but notice this young man here. He looks like someone intelligent and thoughtful. What's your name, young man?" He addressed the boy directly, who lifted his head in surprise that someone was actually speaking to him. "Ethan," the boy answered quietly, glancing nervously at his father as if seeking permission to speak. "Ethan, that's a strong name," Mr. Morrison said warmly. "Tell me, Ethan, what was the most exciting thing that happened at school today?" The question was simple, but the intention behind it was crystal clear. He was giving the boy space to speak, to matter, to be seen. Ethan's eyes brightened slightly, but before he could respond, his father interjected. "Excuse me, but this is a private family matter. I don't know who you are, but this really isn't any of your business." The tone was defensive, almost aggressive. Mr. Morrison didn't lose his composure. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, handing it to the father. "My name is David Morrison. I'm the CEO of TechVantage Solutions, and you're absolutely right. The relationship between you and your son is private. But the way we treat our children in public tells everyone around us exactly who we are as human beings." The father looked at the business card and his face paled noticeably. He clearly recognized the name or the company. TechVantage Solutions was one of the largest employers in the Seattle tech sector, and David Morrison was practically a legend in the industry. Suddenly, the entire dynamic shifted completely. I don't understand what you're getting at," the father stammered, his earlier confidence evaporating. Mr. Morrison sat down at the table without waiting for an invitation. "I saw what happened here a few minutes ago. I watched this young man try to share something important with you, probably an achievement at school, judging by his enthusiasm, and you told him to shut up and threatened him with punishment. Now he's sitting here in silence, afraid to speak again. He was just talking too much, and I had important work to handle," the father defended weakly. "Important work," Mr. Morrison repeated slowly. "I understand. I'm a businessman myself. I run 3 companies, employ 462 people, and have endless responsibilities. But let me share something with you that I learned the hard way." His voice became quieter, more personal. 25 years ago, I was exactly like you. I had a son, Jacob, who constantly wanted to tell me things. About school, about his friends, about his dreams and discoveries. And I was always too busy. Always had more important things to do. Calls to make, emails to answer, deals to close. Write in the comments which element you think is most important in parenting. A. Spending time. B. Listening. C. Respect. Or D. Discipline. Your opinion helps me understand which aspects of parenting resonate most with viewers. The entire coffee shop was now listening, though pretending not to. Mr. Morrison continued. One day Jacob stopped trying. He stopped telling me about his day. He stopped sharing his achievements. By the time he was 14, he barely spoke to me at all. Now he's 32 years old, lives in Boston, and we talk maybe once every few months, out of obligation rather than desire. I lost my son not because I was a bad person, but because I showed him hundreds of times that he wasn't important enough for my attention. The father sat in silence. His face had gone pale. The boy Ethan was staring at Mr. Morrison with wide eyes, completely absorbed in the story. This moment here, today, Mr. Morrison continued, gesturing toward Ethan. This moment when he was excited to share his success with you. There are only a finite number of these moments. Every day we reject them. Every time we show that our phones are more important than their hearts, we send a message that becomes permanent. And one day you'll wake up and realize your son is grown, and you missed it. You won't know his hopes, his fears, his dreams. You'll be a stranger who happens to live in the same house. The silence after those words was profound. I could see tears forming in the father's eyes, his hands trembling slightly. Mr. Morrison turned to Ethan with a warm smile. Ethan, would you tell me about your solar system project? It sounds fascinating, and I've always been interested in astronomy. And then something beautiful happened. Ethan looked at his father, seeking permission. The father, with tears now running down his cheeks, nodded and said in a breaking voice, Yes, son. Please tell Mr. Morrison about it. And then I want you to tell me again, from the beginning, because I want to hear every single detail. Ethan's face lit up like a Christmas tree. For the next 15 minutes, he talked about his project, how he built a scale model of the solar system using styrofoam balls and paint, how he learned the names of all Jupiter's major moons, how he explained to his class why Pluto is no longer considered a planet. Mr. Morrison listened attentively, asked thoughtful questions, genuinely interested, and the father sat there crying quietly, listening to his son with an expression that mixed shame with gratitude and fierce determination. When Ethan finished, Mr. Morrison thanked him for sharing and stood to leave. But before he did, he placed a hand on the father's shoulder. It's never too late to start doing better, he said quietly. Your son still loves you, still wants your approval and attention. Use that gift before it's gone. The father nodded, unable to speak, and reached his hand across the table toward Ethan. The boy took his father's hand, and they just sat there for a moment, holding on to each other. It was something so simple, yet so profound that I felt my own eyes welling up. Mr. Morrison walked past my table on his way to the door, and our eyes met. He nodded in recognition. He knew I worked for him, though we'd never spoken directly. Good evening, Michael, he said simply, and left, leaving behind a coffee shop full of people who had all experienced something transformative. The father paid the bill and prepared to leave with Ethan. But before they walked out, he turned to address the entire coffee shop and said loudly, I want to apologize to everyone for my behavior. There's no excuse for how I treated my son. I'm going to work on being a better father. His voice cracked, but he spoke with authenticity. Several people nodded in acknowledgement. The elderly gentleman said gently, We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next. The father smiled gratefully, took Ethan's hand, and they left together. But this time I could see through the window that they were walking slowly, the father leaning down, listening as Ethan spoke, genuinely engaged. If you've made it this far, it's because this story spoke to you. Leave a comment saying, I watched until the end, so I can get to know those who truly appreciate the life-changing stories on this channel. That incident stayed with me. For the next several days I couldn't stop thinking about it. On Monday at work, when I passed Mr. Morrison in the hallway, he stopped to exchange words. I saw you at the coffee shop on Tuesday, Michael. I hope that wasn't too uncomfortable to witness. I answered honestly, Mr. Morrison, that was one of the most important things I've ever seen. You changed that child's life. Mr. Morrison shook his head. I didn't change anything. I simply reminded a father of something he already knew but had forgotten. We all do it. We let the pressures of adult life make us forget what truly matters. Then he added something that surprised me. Actually, I received an email from that father. His name is Robert Harrison. He wants to meet me for lunch. Would you like to join us? A week later, the three of us sat in a restaurant, Mr. Morrison, myself, and Robert Harrison, the father from the coffee shop. Robert explained his story. He was a marketing director at a mid-sized firm, under enormous pressure to deliver results quarter after quarter. His marriage was strained, his finances were stretched, and he felt overwhelmed by everything. I started seeing my son as another obligation, another responsibility, instead of as a blessing. He admitted with shame. I'm not excusing my behavior, but I'm explaining where it came from. Mr. Morrison listened with compassion. Adult life is hard. There's no question about that. But our children don't ask for much. They don't need perfect parents. They need present parents. They need to know they matter, that they're seen, that they're heard. Robert nodded. Since that day at the coffee shop, I've been changing everything. I instituted a no-phones policy during family meals. I spend at least 30 minutes every evening just talking with Ethan about his day. And you know what? I feel closer to my son after 1 week than I've felt in years. That conversation grew into something bigger. Mr. Morrison proposed creating a workshop for parents at our company, focusing on work-life integration and the importance of parental presence. Robert agreed to share his story, and I offered to help organize it. Within 3 months, we were running workshops for over 200 parents across different companies in Seattle. The stories we heard were simultaneously heartbreaking and inspiring. Parents admitting to making the same mistakes. Fathers crying as they talked about broken relationships with adult children, but also stories of transformation. Parents who changed their priorities and found deeper connection with their kids. One father, a bank executive, said, "I thought providing financially was the most important thing. I worked 80-hour weeks, gave my daughter everything materially. But when she turned 16 and asked to live with her mother full-time, she told me directly, 'Dad, you have money and things, but you never had me. You don't know me.' Those words destroyed me. That's when I understood that presence cannot be replaced with presence." Another mother, a corporate attorney, shared, "I was so proud of my career, my achievements. But my son told me once, 'Mom, you're the best lawyer at your firm, but you're the worst mom in our house.' That opened my eyes to the fact that professional success without family success is an empty victory." These workshops became a movement. Local media started covering it. Mr. Morrison was invited to give a TEDx talk in Portland on parental presence in the digital age. His speech was viewed over 2 million times, touching parents not just in America, but around the world. But the most beautiful part of this story came 6 months after the coffee shop incident. Robert Harrison organized a small gathering and invited Mr. Morrison and me. When we arrived, Ethan was there, holding a wrapped gift. "I want to give you something," he said shyly to Mr. Morrison. Inside was a handmade model of the solar system, much more advanced than the one he'd made for school. "I made this for you because you helped my dad become a better dad. Now we talk every day and he comes to all my school events. Thank you." Mr. Morrison hugged the boy, his eyes wet with tears. "Thank you, Ethan. This is the best gift I've ever received." Then he looked at Robert. "You're a good father, not because you don't make mistakes, but because you have the courage to correct them." Today, 2 years later, we continue the workshops. Robert is now one of the primary facilitators, sharing his transformation story. Mr. Morrison created a foundation called Present Parents that provides resources, training, and support for parents struggling with work-life balance. And I learned one of the most important lessons of my life from that simple incident in a coffee shop. The lesson is this: our children don't remember every gift we give them. They don't remember the hours we spent at the office earning money. They remember the moments when we were fully present. They remember when we listened. They remember when their achievements were celebrated, when their fears were comforted, when their joy was shared. They remember whether they felt important, whether they felt seen, whether they felt loved. This is your final opportunity. Subscribe now to this channel for more authentic stories about human relationships that could genuinely change your life or the life of someone you love. Click subscribe and turn on notifications. This isn't empty entertainment, it's life education that matters. Leave your like so the algorithm shares this with more people who need to hear these truths. And share this video with every parent you know. It could literally transform their relationship with their children. Technology, work, and obligations will always demand our attention, but our children won't be children forever. The windows of opportunity to build deep, meaningful relationships are only open for a short time. When we close them through neglect, through prioritizing trivial things over connection. Opening them again is nearly impossible. The incident in the coffee shop that Tuesday afternoon taught me that real success isn't measured by titles, salary, or professional achievements. It's measured by the quality of our relationships, the depth of our connections, and the legacy of love and presence we leave in the hearts of those who need us most. If you're a parent reading this, please stop for a moment. Put down your phone. Close your laptop. Look at your child. Truly see them. Listen when they speak. Genuinely listen. Celebrate their small victories. Comfort their small defeats. Be present in the small moments, because when you look back, you'll realize the small moments were actually the big moments. Those were the moments when you showed your child they mattered, they were important, they were loved, and there's no job, no email, no phone call that's more important than that. Absolutely none.